as well as the Doran Shield making the on-hit damage, helping to deal with the plants. But the Syndra is one of the most heavily contested picks so far, and she has still yet to be defeated in the LCK. So
yeah,
it makes a lot of sense, as you don't really want to give that champion over to a mid laner as proficient as Crown.
Yeah, and taking away the Rumble from Marin from the side of Samsung here. And of course, Zach still pretty much permaban. The one game we saw it was a total mistake. It was a mistake of the highest level, even more so maybe than, you know, LeBlanc of old in 2017 spraying. It's just insane what Zach can do. And wow, Kuro's getting close to 1,000 kills at 986. I doubt he's going to be able to get to 1,000 tonight. Well, he needs to get 14 kills.
If they keep putting him on Galio, we're really not going to see him get many more kills. And yep, it looks like it most likely will be Kuro on that Galio. It was the pick that was given to him before. And even though Galio is an incredibly powerful champion, I think it really fits him, because not only can he help the side lanes quite well, he has incredible laning presence. You basically pick this champion and you're guaranteed a successful lane that will at least go even or win. And so if the Freaks can play the game out early, play it well, then they will be able to use that advantage, transition into the jungle, and look for those global plays, because Galio's ultimate is so powerful when just surprising enemies. Somebody gets caught, it's like Shen ultimate on crack. He's right there, he's instantly there, way more damage, and the CC is much more important in a team fight than what a Shen can provide.
Like the last ban by Samsung onto the Elise, Spirit was looking quite good against KT when they played them on Saturday, so taking that away, obviously a very highly contested jungle pick. And the Galio pick into Ash Thresh, so definitely a ton of pick down in the bot lane for Samsung already.
And I really like the Thresh pick. It's the most contested support so far, and it helps with mitigating any pressure that Freaks might be throwing towards the bottom side of the map. Kramer has been having some pretty good games so far, especially on the Ashe. So they deny the Ashe pick right away, make sure that they get the Thresh, but the counter from the Tahm Kench will be really interesting to see how the Freaks play it, because normally you go for the arrow, okay, you hit your target, and then you can pick them up. When you have Tahm Kench, you have to always aim for him, otherwise the Devour will deny any attempt. And so it's going to be on Tucson for having really good positioning, because he plays a little bit overzealous. He's just going to be the one feeding.
Yeah, we have seen him play a little bit overzealous at times, mostly on Karma and other picks such as that. So I think he knows how to play his own Mr. Kench here. We do see Graves picked up for Ambition. We haven't seen Graves see too much success in LCK Summer so far. It's actually sitting at 3-7 right now, 30% win rate. So we'll see if maybe Ambition can up the numbers for Graves.
Well, let's hope so, because Ambition, when he came back, you didn't expect him to start on this season. He's been playing quite well. His marriage has been helping him solidify as, once again, a really solid player all around, one of the oldest players of all time. And the two bans from the Freaks, not only is the Talia ban helpful in dealing with the potential of a lot of dive on the Samsung side with Talia and the Ashe, but the Orianna, making sure that there is not a crazy presence in a team fight later in the game, somebody that can stall out well, that can have an easier time laning against Galio. So really making sure that Kuro is set up for success here in this Galio pick, and you know that they're going to be picking a carry topside here for Marin. He's a carry player, and picking a tank would just be so unwise, as the damage would be just very minimal.
You know what's still available is the Jarvan. Renekton also another pick. You were talking about a carry, but when they ban out Ken and Fiora, it's basically just two picks that are available at this point. I guess Renekton and Jarvan. We've seen Jarvan see a ton of play here so far. And there you go. Crown's going to be going on to his victory. Received 3 target bans against him with the Syndra, Talia, and Orianna, but he's going back to his big old comfort pick.
What a treat. I mean, this guy is the guy that makes Victor win matchups that normally you would think Victor loses. He is pretty much, I think you can say, the best Victor in the world. Single-handedly plays him more than anybody else. Plays him to such a high level that it's really refreshing to see, and nobody else can really mimic that. I don't think anybody else has put in the time necessary to play this champion, and it offers a lot of wave clear for this pick. So Samsung just having a really solid composition, and I think that's what I really like about this team. so far their drafts have been really solid. They have great synergy in their picks so far here. You can very clearly see that they're trying to just stall at the top side, focus on around protecting your carries, but you have 3 of them this time around, so it's a lot easier than running a 2-threat composition when you're dealing with the likes of a Lee Sin or a Galio that can easily pinpoint one guy and eliminate them. Yeah,
it's a very cool composition. You have a lot of pick, as we were talking about, but you also have a lot of scaling into the late game with those 3 carries. Whereas on Afreeca's side, not really so sure. We'd have to take another look. We'll see Renekton, Lee Sin, Galio, Caitlyn, and Tom Kench.
Well, the thing for the Freaks on this lineup is going to be that they really need to be taking advantage of the pressure they have in the solo lanes early in the game. Renekton and Galio will have the advantage, and with a Lee Sin, they have to accelerate the pace very quickly. Otherwise, they will be outscaled and pretty much dealing with a 1-threat lineup when you have a Caitlyn as your primary source of damage in the late game.
Yeah, so there you go, guys. Go out and tell your friends this match is on. Afreeca versus Samsung. Game number 1 is about to start up here at Spode TV. So here we go, guys. Let's jump onto the Rift. Well, there you go. Lots of Samsung fans. They're doing incredibly well so far in LCK Summer, and it only makes sense. Definitely a matchup with superstars on both sides, and the entire studio is packed right now, up to the brim.
But the real superstar for me is the Doran shield. This entire split, the D shield, has been so apparent. And take a look at the AD carries. 2 Doran shield on them. Before this matchup, 94% of ADs were taking Doran shield in the bottom lane. The ratio has to have gone up even more so with these 2, and it just shows how easy it is to lane with these picks. You can just get away with laning a little bit more haphazardly, if you will, just taking harass that you normally would be punished for, and that's one of the biggest complaints about the item, that it really just lets you lane easy mode.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, not even just the AD position, but also in the top lane, the Doran shield was the most picked item. I think it was about 64%, as we were seeing during our analyst desk before the games here on the Korean side. But definitely a very big item nowadays, as Crown tries to get a little bit frisky there at the Raptors.
Some cheeky harass there. Couldn't get a steal, instead chose to just harass Spirit a little bit, and will be laning against Kuro with his Q, the Siphon Power, so getting that shield. And it will be very useful when dealing with Galio's harass, which is just so spammy and quite difficult to completely mitigate all the damage.
Already at level 1, you can see Marin putting on the pressure. This is what you want out of your Renekton. Kiva actually getting a little bit too close, trying to get a creep. He's still sitting at 0 CS right now, so definitely struggling.
And the harass we saw in the bottom lane in that level 1 might translate to some pressure from Ambition. He started in the top side and made his way to the blue buff right away. And with the dual lane from the Freaks playing this far up without any vision, they have to worry of possibly a gank happening in the relative couple of minutes, as Ambition makes his way bottom side and is still perhaps using the blast cone to get over the wall.
Yeah, he's sitting there, Tushin.
Oh, here
that
it is.
Timing. Okay, well, he does have that red buff. He's going to dash forward. Lots of damage coming in. There's the flash. No follow-up hook from Core JJ. Didn't even go for it.
And that all started from that level 1. They get a tiny little advantage. They feel comfortable playing to it and seeing what they can get out of it. And in the end, they pay with a flash from the Tom Kench. So now they're going to have to play a lot more defensively if they don't want to get a revisit. Luckily, they did get Core JJ's flash, which means that the threat of a flash lantern Flay gank is down the drain. So at least they can be easing their minds as to Graves revisiting that lane.
Yeah, and after that failed gank, he's just going to go back into his jungle and be farming up for a very long time. Looking at the route actually from Spirit, he hasn't gone for a single gank, but he's cleared out everything but the Gromp. So definitely just trying to match the farm of Graves, not really trying to put on pressure so far. And you can see he's farming quite well. Goes back, buys a couple of long swords.
And if he keeps that up, he's going to be able to hit level 6 and start making plays. And I think that's what Spirit will be trying to go for. There's not a whole lot of crazy kill pressure onto these lanes pre-6. Crown does have cleanse, so getting out of the Galio taunt will be very easy. And so without Dragon's Rage, it'll be really difficult to not only gank mid, but ganking bottom. And you know they don't have plans of going topside because of Marin's itemization. The Cole, we didn't touch on it in the level 1, but even though he can win lane very easily because of the matchup on Renekton, he's just saying, I want to hit that mid-game spike faster than you, and I want to be able to just transition into a much more goal-oriented phase in the game, as opposed to let's just win early and see what we can do. Because if Spirit is not going to play topside, then it just doesn't. It's not worth it to go with either a Blade or a Shield.
And look at this, already with an early ward from the top lane from Marin. With the pressure he's putting on, allows Spirit to see where Ambition is. We could have a setup here onto him.
Lets him take aggro.
Yeah, lets him take aggro. A bit of damage coming out. There's the Q onto him. Will force the flash. No kill. Will come out. But they will be able to take some of those Raptors, and they do get that flash away.
It's a very wise move there from Spirit, and if he paces to the top side, he might be able to try to deny Q-Vase back as long as possible. Marin will try to do so. He does have Vision of Ambition, so he can push it, and he is going to deny that base, and that denies another way from Q-Vase. So doubling the CS of this Gragas so far, so Marin just having a field day in the top lane without any help from Ambition.
Yeah, and look at this, Tushin coming in alone is gonna exhaust. They know that Ambition does not have the flash. Will he get the solo kill? He will! And Mr. Thomas Kent will start off the day with a nice, delicious kill. Huge cheers coming out for Tushin. What a play.
Just a complete read on Ambition at that point. Spirit with a great route. Not only is he able to force a flash, but the control ward behind mid lane allows him to see where is Ambition going to go next. They know what his route was to begin with, and the pressure on the bottom lane that they're able to hold without Graves being there to respond for a gank means that he can easily go there, invades, and finds himself first blood with nobody else to have an assist.
Yeah, what an awesome roam there from our support player from the Afreeca Freecs. Doesn't really receive too much attention when you think about the Freaks. You know, you think about Kuro Marin, obviously Spirit, a very experienced jungler as well, but showing up big so far.
Exactly. When you see this team, you see a lineup that would ideally focus in the top half of the map and then use the dual lane as a pure utility. You see the bottom lane that typically Kramer favors at Ashe, but because it was denied, just goes with the Caitlyn, a lane-dominant champion that can hit a crazy late game, but easy to lane with, easy to not die with in this dual lane matchup. And they dodged that first game quite easily, and even though it is a Graves, the harm was close to none.
Yeah. It's funny we didn't see the Varus. It didn't get banned, did it?
No, it did not.
Because...
he did not see the word.
Yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. But Varus, up until today, was our most picked champion, actually, at 13 times already. Ashe was sitting at 11, and then Caitlyn is at 7. So
well, at least for the Freaks, the Varus would not make much sense on this lineup because of just how little damage they will have in the late game. If they were to have a Varus with Renekton, Galio, Kent, and Lee, it really would be tough for them to actually melt through anybody. But when you have the Caitlyn, you can at least have the insurance of saying, if it goes late, we can at least all be a frontline peel for this Caitlyn. And it's a new flavor that you wouldn't expect from the Freaks to put so much emphasis on Kramer being the fail-safe here.
Very cool to see. And we're already getting a look at what is happening up in top lane. Marin's really been given an opportunity to carry his team in a big way. Starting off with that call, already up about 20 CS, making Cuve's life really, really hard. And
all he has to do is maintain pressure into the top side. Graves can't really visit this lane because the value of going here is not something that will really win the game. Renekton, sure, if he falls behind, it's something that would have normally happened anyways. His relevancy would fall off, and Gragas is not the champion to carry, and so the play has to revolve around the bottom side of the map. And the Freaks understand it, and you see it by the double control ward, right side of mid lane, right side on the back of the blue buff for Samsung, and because they were unable to clear that ward, this means that Galio has an easy time roaming to the bottom side of the map anytime that he wants, not only capable of defending any dive that Samsung wants to do, but making any plays that they want in that bottom half of the map, just as we saw with Tucson getting that first blood onto Ambition.
Yeah, the Galio mid becoming extremely popular nowadays. I myself, I'm not a huge fan of it. I feel like it's kind of boring. You know, he just sits here in the mid lane, he pushes the wave into the Victor, and every time we look at mid, it's like, oh, why are we looking at mid exactly? Because there's nothing to watch, just to be straight up. And, you know, it's cool because he does have that roaming pressure like you were talking about for defense and offense. It is a very strong pick, so I understand why they pick it, but not my favorite pick, Crumbs.
He's just a purely pressure champion. You guarantee yourself pushing middle or at least being even, and when you have that, you can make so many plays around the map. You free your other lanes to play a little bit more aggressively, and it really helps your team out. And it's a great pick for Kuro here because Kuro is not known as a mid laner that has a lot of kill pressure onto everybody else, but they will scout out this dragon, and Spirit will have to reassess if he wants to continue this, as Crown does get spotted moving towards it. There is a teleport from Marin, though.
Yeah, he's coming on in.
They're going to turn on this.
Oh, boy. Crown could be in a lot of trouble here. He's going to use that cleanse to get out. He still does have his flash. The taunt gets onto Ambition, actually. The Sonic Wave does miss, and Crown will not die. And in the meantime, the Dragon did not get killed. So they try to commit here, but the teleport kind of wasted. I mean, they put a little bit of pressure onto Crown in the mid lane, but he can just heal up and be just fine. No kills found here for Afreeca.
Really calm and collected there from Samsung, not burning any flashes, only the cleanse out of Ruler, and Graves uses his ultimate to just get over the wall, even though the taunt hit. So the fact that they didn't even use their teleport to cancel it right after shows that they really had this under control. You saw earlier when Crown was playing Talia, he just went for these tower dives that you'd think everybody else would have burned flash, but he just says, no, I'm just going to save it. I understand the limits of my champion. And it's really impressive to see that they remain so calm in a situation that could have easily turned into 2 kills on the Dragon while they were fighting bottom lane. So you can imagine that the comms were quite clustered at the time.
So you can see that Spirit is hanging around mid lane, but okay, he's going to get that taunt off, and Crown will go down as they do land the Sonic Wave. That's going to be 2 kills now for Afreeca, but meantime, Kuro died. Not exactly sure how that happened. Maybe he got caught up in the stun and took tower aggro.
That's got to be it. You know Crown always lays down the gravity field anytime that he's about to be in danger, so really good play by trying to answer something, but you know they're going to revisit this lane because his cleanse is down.
Yeah, and pretty standard play, but as we were expecting, the gravity field, it's just too much, and even trying to jump away, it's not enough.
That's unfortunate they actually used that ultimate. Now it's going to be on like cooldown, but they do pick up that kill, and they can revisit this lane as Spirit still has flash, so we can look for maybe a creative angle behind mid lane from Afreeca Freecs, as there's still no cleanse onto Crown.
Marin was poking in here. You could see some pings were going down as they spotted him, but eventually decide not to go for it as Cuvée is pretty low on mana.
Spirit's thinking about it, but there's double wards on the sides of mid lane, really protecting Crown here. All he has to do is just stall out the game, make sure that he keeps lasering the waves, and if they stall out, the damage on this lineup will mean that the tank champions like Tahm Kench, Galio, and even Renekton to an extent will have a really difficult time judging how long they can stay alive in the fight.
This is just so obnoxious from Marin. He's forcing Ambition to come on up here. I'm not even sure if they can make this happen. Okay, the ult is popped here for Renekton. He's actually turning onto Ambition. There's the kill. Will he get the double? Cuvée has no mana right now.
He's here. He's dead. This is why you don't go to the top side.
Here we go. I mean, this is a dead Gragas if I ever saw one. That's going to be 2 kills going over to Afreeca. Great play, great composure there by Marin to pick up those 2 kills.
Really intelligent there from Marin, knowing how far he can push his limits. Gragas did not have enough mana to really turn this fight around, and you know Renekton's such a strong early game bully that a squishy jungler like Graves that is behind will have a really tough time. So the Freecs is getting such a big lead now as first brick will go down to them while they're fighting bot lane.
This is a bit of a fight here. They are going to commit to the arrow, but Tushen just going to eat up that gray health. Is pretty low, but they all will survive. No summoners used here by Samsung, and they do get the bottom lane pretty low of Afreeca, so I guess a small win there.
Take another look there. He pops the ultimate right as the stun hits, but there is no mana in Cuvée, and even if he had mana, Graves is just not tanky enough to survive this Renekton right now, who doesn't even have a whole lot of damage. He went with the Cole, with the Phage right now, and so going to the top side was just, it's so difficult to be in this position from Samsung because it looks so tempting, but you just know it's not the right call.
Yeah. Perhaps on a different jungler, you know, if you have Elise on your team, maybe you can try to CC down the Renekton. Even then it would have been risky. But on this Graves, definitely not going to happen.
The thing is, you have to always be playing to the win conditions. And again, the Gragas does not serve as your win condition. He's your PO, he's your front line. No matter how far ahead he gets, well, let's not go with complete absolutes, but you don't want to help out the guy that's not going to be the carry. Your mid and your bottom lane are the champions to go for, and more attention to the bottom side would have been more effective use of Ambition's time than trying to assist a lane that was already struggling. Because when you pair a losing lane with a losing jungler, you're almost certainly going to lose that fight.
Taking a look down here at bottom lane once again, they are trying to get something going here onto Kramer, as they do know the exhaust is down, but nothing happening as Tushin will eat him up very early on in that fight. This looks like the Mountain Drake will go over to Afreeca as nobody from Samsung is coming near.
And they can't contest it. I really like Marin's move right here. Even though it looks like he had no part in this, he makes his move from the top side to the bottom, just in case a fight is to break out in the Dragon. If anybody feels like contesting, he can react there without having to burn his teleport, being in a really good position. And that's the overall team synergy that you want to see. Even though you're not part of the objective, your moves have to be related to what the team is trying to do at the same time.
Marin with the level up here onto Cuvee. There's no turret to protect this Gragas right now, and here comes Kuro. They were thinking about potentially engaging here. Pings are going down. They do want this.
Gallia's thinking about it, and Lee Sin is moving towards it.
He was actually poking his head out of that brush. Gallia's bigger than Kuro thinks.
Now you can expect the Freaks to be looking for a Herald play. I think Lee Sin might be thinking about starting it right now. It is warded, but with the pressure they have in the top side of the map, all they would need is Marin to come down to assist for this objective to be secured. And if they can crack the mid lane turret with this objective, then it would be huge. Oh, Ambition's so dead. What is he doing?
They knew he was there. They saw with the ward before this, and they're trying to get onto Ambition, but he will back away, having used that flash. But Cuvee is going to be a flash here from Marin. They do want to get onto this kill, and Cuvee will flash the wall. The Q from Spirit will miss, and Cuvee will get away with his life once again.
I'm surprised nobody chose to commit for a flash onto Ambition, but they chose to commit a flash onto Cuvee? Right? Why flash on the tank when you can flash on the jungler that's a lot easier to kill? But in the end, they do get the pressure relief, and so you can see Spirit soloing out probably the easiest objective to take right about now, which is the Herald. She doesn't really fight back.
She tries, but doesn't really have much effectiveness.
Let's just change the wording on that one for a while. Jesus.
Hey, I wasn't even thinking about that. Okay, so there we go. This is going to be given to Marin, so another Herald given to the top laner. And this is a point of much discussion nowadays. Should it be going on a top lane or a jungle? Or just a laner or a jungle, basically, are your choices. And makes it obvious that Marin might want to push this up into the top lane.
I don't think there's a set person that you give it to. It really depends on who has pressure at the time. So trying to go on Crown would be difficult, as you most likely would just be getting the charge plus a little bit of autos on it, as his wave clear and stun is really good at dealing with Herald. Whereas Gragas, even though he can clear decently well, the fact that Marin has so much pressure into the top side means that if somebody visits, you can crack that tier 2. And cracking a tier 2 this early on, pretty much as a single-handed crocodile, would be really impressive.
Well, you can see how far up he is in the lane and how reluctant Ambition is to go anywhere near it. I think Cuvee can just continue clearing the waves and just
coming down to try to defend this turret, but Gallia's here as well, so they will have to back up on this one. And Freecs is doing so much work with the pressure they have. It's really, really cool to see how they're playing with the minion waves. Not really focusing much on the kills, just making sure that they have pressure in their lanes, that they move accordingly, and that everybody's in a position to respond to each other. Not just Lee Sin being there, but Gallia in a position to use his heroic entrance just in case any danger is to come their way.
And I mean, the kills will come from the pressure, as we saw. Marin puts on an immense amount of pressure, forces the jungle up, and then they can just take the 2v2 up there.
Now he's basing, and he's going to go to the top side again because the dual lane is going bottom lane, but he has a completed Hydra, so he's basically ungankable at this point. If Graves or tries to gank him with Gragas alone, he'll most likely be able to turn it. So it's really impossible to go into the top side of the map for Samsung right now, so they have to just focus on defending mid lane with as much grit as possible, and so the vision, all of it revolves around mid for them. And Freecs are in a really comfortable position here. They really have control of this match, and if they can keep this up and crack some tier 2s relatively soon, they'll be in a really good position to start moving towards Baron now that the 20-minute mark is getting near.
Good teamwork even by Afreeca, having Marin lease the blue for Kuro, as Spirit needed that back to buy up some items. Looks like he is going potentially into that black cleaver.
And he does that because there's nobody else on the map applying pressure, so he's not needed. If he were to be staying into the top side instead of helping that blue buff, he'd be in a position where he's easily ganked and there's nothing to trade for in return. But now that the laners are all getting back, you see that Caitlyn and Tahm Kench are pushing, Lee Sin's in the river, and Galio's making it back to the lane. He's happier to just be pushing up here, and still nowhere to proc that Herald, as the wave clear from Cuvée has been pretty stellar so far in making sure that no Herald just headbutts any turret to death. And
well, we see Marin coming down towards mid, and he is going to be spotted on some wards, so they should have an idea that perhaps he wants to put this down into mid.
Yeah, mid lane turret is cracked and pings are going down, so they definitely will be used here.
Look at the movement from Samsung. Everybody gathering up into the mid lane. They know this is coming, and here we go.
The summon is here.
Harold returns.
Oh, they even burn collateral damage on that one.
Trying to land a hook even.
Whew.
There's the damage. Can they actually crack the turret? They are going to get crowned here. A huge play. Even with the cleanse used here, they do pick up the kill.
And they get baited to try to defend that too hard. Herald just does so much damage to the tower, and that's why one of the reasons why this objective is so powerful. If you have a mid laner that is just able to do a little bit of chip damage onto your mid lane turret, you can get it so quickly. Just a quick rotation to the mid lane, and already the map has been cracked. And not only will it return in an immense amount of pressure, but it frees up the jungler to now just solo that dragon. And now they're eyeing top side of the map to secure vision around Baron. And there's not a whole lot that Samsung can do besides defensive vision and look for picks with arrow, but it almost always has to be onto the Tahm Kench, which is really the last guy that you want to be looking for.
Yeah, really got to admire Afreeca's play so far. Extremely clean. So much pressure on the map. They do pick up the Cloud Drake as the next one, and we do have Ocean Drake coming up next. So,
and it's a team that has shown that they can play clean. They did perfect game Afreeca last week, or KT, and so the Herald charges in, but remember that it does reduce the armor. It counts as a minion. Crown gets a little bit cocky there and steps on the trap, actually. Harold hid the trap.
That was actually all Harold in that play. Had nothing to do with Afreeca.
Afreeca Herald there.
Harold finally getting her time to shine on the Rift. Definitely one of our more effective Harold. She gets an entire turret plus a kill.
Well, cracking it against Victor, one of the highest wave clear champions, is always a good use of it. It's like breaking mid lane against champions like Ziggs, Anivia, Xerath, Victor. Even though you want more of it, the fact that you can just break it that normally would take you up to 30 minutes is a really good sign for this team.
So we can see some pressure coming in mid once again, doing a mini 1-3-1. They got Galio up into the top lane. Seems like Samsung will respond with Crown just to clear those waves out. Galio can always move towards mid with the heroic entrance if a fight does break out. And they have Renekton down in the bot lane, just pushing that in.
But this 1-3-1 really just benefits Afreeca. It's not a lane assignment that Samsung should be looking forward to. When it's a 3-on-3 in the mid lane, Ashe and Thresh have no kill pressure when you're dealing with Tahm Kench. And Renekton keeping Gragas at bay means that the hardest engage that Samsung has is not there. And so they have to just be content with sticking to these lanes. And these are lanes that did lose them CS advantages. So Afreeca's perfectly happy with this, that the advantage top lane is already at 50 CS.
That was a kill. If they had gotten Kramer there, that definitely could have gotten the ball rolling back in their favor for Samsung. But Kramer very smartly will burn the flash immediately. in order to stay alive and keep this pressure on.
And it's a really smart move by Ruler there to see the second that Tuzin separates himself from the Caitlyn to look for the arrow. That's the only time that you can really go for the engage, and it shows the power of the Tahm Kench. Normally you'd see Ashe arrows being shot out left, right, and center by this minute mark, but because of the Tahm Kench just being so close, playing buddy-buddy with Kramer, he just doesn't have the opportunities, and it becomes really apparent now that the vision is denied that he's just not comfortable with going with these arrows because they would just otherwise be wasted and saved by a Devourer that is just so easy to use.
I love this patient play out of Afreeca where they know they have total control on the map, but they just take it wave at a time. They're not diving the turret. They're not trying to go for a risky Baron. They're like, okay, well, if it takes 5 minutes to take down this mid tier 2, we're going to get it, because that'll definitely open up more opportunities for the other tier 2 turrets or more Baron pressure. And now everybody's grouping up into mid.
The turret's almost dead, and it's really impressive patience, as you say. Remember, this is 24 minutes in. This is one of the quickest games. Obviously, we saw SKT demolish BBQ 2 days ago, but that doesn't really count as one of the quickest games. That was an exceptional case. And this time around, this game time for the lead that they have of 6K against Samsung, the team was 2-0, is really impressive from the Freaks, and a team that has shown glimpses of near perfection at this point. Only 1 kill going the way of Samsung, so really good stuff to see for a team that when we saw them start out, we were just thinking, wow, what happened?
Yeah, Afreeca got some ups and downs, but today they seem to be on the up and up. Definitely came prepared for Samsung, that's for sure.
Well, they are prepared, but I don't want to give them too much because I thought that they would be able to take down KT 2-0, but they did perfect game and then lose 2 in a row back-to-back, so.
Yeah, could see the same thing here where it's like they crush Samsung game 1 and then all of a sudden they get cocky and Samsung takes 2 in a row. So, gotta wait and see. Can't call it too early.
In the meantime, just patiently waiting for objectives here. They've already taken most of the turrets that matter, the 2 in the mid lane, and they're not strong enough to really push a Baron right now. Even though they have a good gold lead, they still need a little bit more items in their pocket before they start going, whoa.
Okay, Kramer trying to go kind of 1v1. Tushin does group up, and Ruler was winning the trade, in fact, but
it's that ninja tab eyes. When you have a Blade of the Ruined King and Hurricane, you're guaranteed more DPS without crits than the Infinity Edge with Rapid Fire. So if no crits hit and you don't have tabbies, you can't really expect to 1v1 an AD carry that does.
Notice that Kramer sticks around, whereas Ruler does go back. Kramer is just going to lifesteal up. Looks like she's backing right now with Tushin. But Ambition kind of going for a funny move where he was in the Baron pit and attacked it once and then required saving from Core JJ. He's like, no, I'm sorry, it was a mistake.
Sorry, Senpai. 30 seconds on the Dragon, but it is an Ocean Drake, so not a whole lot of value onto this one. It'd be interesting to see if Freaks choose to use this Dragon as a bait and if Samsung take it. Because all they really need to do is get a couple of picks here, and they can transition into a Baron, and with a 1-3-1 that they've been doing so far, they would easily crack the base from Samsung, which is really what they need against a heavy wave clear. So instead, they are just positioning around the Baron side, but not too much commitment on the vision, as you see Tuzin still in the mid lane.
Yeah, it seems like they want to get this 1-3-1 going again, except Galio in the bot lane this time, and I think they just need to get those lanes pushing before they try for anything else. They're going to bring their 3 members from mid to come over here and take this free Ocean Drake. You can see no vision, no pressure at all. Actually, there was one small ward over there from Samsung, so they knew it was happening, but not going to go over there and try to contest.
No pressure, but all bad luck. That's another Ocean Dragon that's coming up, so they're really just not having the greatest of dragons. They do have that mountain one, which will help if they get their time around that Baron buff, but a rotation to the bottom side seems to be in play here. And what's Samsung going to react to? Are they going to try to rush down a Baron? They can collapse really quickly, so it would be unwise. There is Tahm Kench ultimate. Things are getting messy.
They're going to go for this Baron, but here we go. The teleport even from Kive, they're committing to this 100%. Can everybody from Afreeca get here in time? Trying to go for the steal up at there, and it will go over to Spirit. Really nice steal. Look at the left side as well. Marin trying to 1v1 Ruler here. He will pick up that kill. That's going to be the first kill there onto Ruler. Kuro flashing the wall now is going to knock up Cuvee. They might be another one, forcing the flash out of Cuvee to try to get away. Nice escape here by Core JJ for a while. Marin is still on the chase. There's the ace in the hole. Here comes Kuro. That's going to be a second kill going over to Afreeca, as well as the Baron.
Just a really desperate play from the Samsung. They forget the ability to collapse from pretty much anywhere from the Freaks. You have Tom Kent's ultimate that brings 2 people in. You've got Galio renecting what that was already in the top side, but they just felt so constricted in this way that Afreeca is playing. The pressure meant that they just felt like it was the only option they had, but it was just the wrong call. So overall, great play from the Freaks, putting Samsung in that position to make the wrong call, and they punish them immediately.
Definitely very desperate. Had they gotten the Baron, I think definitely things could have turned around.
I think they likely would have been wiped there as well.
Yeah. Well, pretty desperate play either way, and now Samsung is down about 10,000 gold. Afreeca with a gigantic lead here, as they do take out 1 inhibitor.
But this lead, even we'll take another look at it right there. They try to rush it, but there's a Baron in the pit, and Lee Sin gets on the back of it, finally gets his steal on it. Just really good stuff.
Knocked around into the resonating strike and then the follow-up smite.
And look at that, they win this fight. Caitlyn isn't even here. They've won this fight just from the Baron damage and the tanks. That just shows just how far ahead the Freaks are on this match.
Yeah, I love the isolation there from Marin too. This incredibly fed Renekton with over 300 CS, 2-0-2, or he was 1-0-2 before the fight broke out. And he's just able to isolate Ruler away from his team and totally hunt him down on that very fed Renekton. So nicely done there as well.
You don't mess with crocodiles, and so in the end, Cuvee did burn his teleport for that, but Marin saved his as he was already in the top side, but they're still capable of just playing this split push game with Renekton in the mid lane. No wave bottom, though. They will try to commit for some damage here. Oh, Kuro.
Oh, he's going to get stunned up, but there is the Devour from Tushin. Will save his life. The arrow comes out and hits this Tom Kent, and a hook onto Spirit. Lots of damage coming out here, but no real follow-up from the side of Samsung. I think at this point, they're just too far behind.
They really are, and the wave clear is not going to be enough with dealing with these super minions. The turret's already going down really quickly because of the rapid fire, and Ambition can't even join this fight.
Yeah. Galio right now kind of taking the role of Maokai in Spring, where you just push past the turret by yourself, using that Gargoyle Stone Plate, and just tanking up everything. They're going to be able to get another inhibitor. Core JJ spends his life for it as well, and now they're going for inhibitor number 3.
And that's going to be an almost pretty much near perfect game from Freaks again. That's 8-1, only 1 kill going over their way. Their objective game has been great, and gotta say, out of all the teams so far, Freaks have been really impressive. Being able to almost show 2 perfect games back-to-back is something that you almost never see happen.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, Afreeca was on blue side against KT when they got that perfect game. They seem to be a lot more comfortable on this side. I wish, though, we go from this game, which is entirely dominant over a huge team like Samsung, and then we get a similar game in game number 2, or even a similar game in game number 3 when they get blue side again. But we just haven't really seen that just yet. Again, it is very early in summer. They are looking good at times, but if they can get consistent with this dominant play, Afreeca could be, you know, top 3 team here in summer.
And I think this play is a result of them being really in tune with the meta and what works best for them. I really like the Kuro pick on the Galio, making sure that this guy, he's not your main carry. He's been one of the solid mid laners for a while, but you never really think of him as, oh, this guy's going to solo kill or really carry the game. So when you put him on this pick, that is guaranteed to have pressure, that is guaranteed to have to always be respected by a cleanse from the mid laner, it means that it opens up the map to do whatever they want, and it lets Marin and Spirit do their thing. And
trying to get the kick there onto Ruler, but he does get hooked. Will be eaten up by Tushin. Here comes a taunt. It looks like it will just get Ambition, as meanwhile the super minions are pushing on in. This Galio is going to be hooked on up. In goes Marin, deep 1v5. Is going to take out the Ash, going for that Graves. Looks like he will meet his maker.
He's got GA though.
Yeah, he does get that down there. and comes back to life.
They just don't die.
Nobody dies at this point. They're just way too far ahead. That's going to be the second Nexus turret going down. Kind of just playing with their food at this point. Marin with a super dominant game on the Renekton. There's game number 1 going over to Afreeca.
That was such a sick game from the Freecs. I'm really happy for this team. The fact that they're able to show up consistently with this style and they're able to basically dismantle the Freecs ever from the first blood onto Ambition. They just did not let go. Pressure in the lanes, moving together, the moves that Spirit was making in order to pick up, and he knows. He's got that smug little look.
He's got the little smug
smirk
on. Mara knows exactly what was going on. And again, when you're talking about Samsung, you know, this is kind of a weak game that we saw from them. But again, it came down to that top pressure and the failed gank up in top. They still do have Haru in their pocket. If they do want to replace Ambition and bring him out here, I feel like that game wasn't entirely Ambition's fault, but just saying they have that available to them. We might see a replacement, a substitute coming in for game 2.
It is available, but I just think that Graves right now is not in the greatest position. The junglers really seem to be favoring more of a utility role right now. The Graves had been nerfed before. His power came from just having such an overwhelming amount of damage. Right now, he's no longer capable of dealing the same blows to a team, and so he does fall below on that tier list where you have Lee Sin and Elise being a little bit better. They're capable of always being relevant in the game, whereas a champion that's purely DPS like Graves or Kha'Zix, if they don't get the ball rolling, they're never going to do it.
Yeah, so I'd like to see them switch up their picks perhaps. And we're going to take a look at some of the replays. This was a big highlight for me. Tom Kent's coming on in here with a solo kill onto Ambition.
And this was after they burned the flash on Ambition. So good communication, knowing that he can just stroll in here, and he can do so because mid lane's pushing in. You see that Crown just barely peeked in, and oh, just a poor time to be a jungler. It feels bad. It's just like basically the Syndra of top lane. That's what Renekton is. If you're a jungler and you're trying to gank this guy, unless you're pretty fed, you're most likely going to get turned and killed in exchange.
A nice follow-up here from Spirit, allowing Marin to go 1v2 for most of that, but coming up to clean up the kill. Here was the Desperation Baron from Samsung. You can see Ruler gets totally isolated on the left side. Nice steal from Spirit as well to pick that up.
I can respect the call, but I think that it's just not possible against the lineup that the Freecs have, that they're able to rotate just so quickly that maybe their chances would have been better off by looking for a pick or trying to wave clear. It's just a really tough position to be in, and you know, I can't really fault them too much for it. Had it worked, maybe it would have been a way to stall out the game, but overall it was just much cleaner play from the Freecs that Samsung was prepared for.
Yeah, and you were talking about Afreeca's understanding of their composition in the meta right now. It seemed like they almost baited Samsung into that move, and they responded pretty much perfectly, even without Caitlyn able to pick that up. And a nearly perfect game, just one kill going over to Samsung. And I'll say it again, can Afreeca do it again? Can they take a 2-0 or even just a 2-1? Can they replicate this performance just once for one day? That's the real question for me.
Well, we'll see soon enough, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because there's 2 more matches.
Yes, we will. It will happen inevitably, Crumbs. But as you guys can see, they're Renekton up in top, just left alone with that call, absolutely dominating Cuvée up in the top lane, and then the failed gank kind of added insult to injury. So that was the story of game number 1. We are going to go into a quick break before we go into game number 2 of Afreeca versus Samsung. We'll be right back.